Welcome back. This is the Alchemist Nation podcast. My name is Walter Amarillo. I am your host. This is a real estate podcast where we get to travel all across the country and talk to real estate entrepreneurs who are crushing it in their business, millionaires, multimillionaires, decamillionaires who are just looking to give back and give you the opportunity to learn more so you can earn more. Emanuele, welcome to the show.
Thanks, man. I'm excited. I love the energy. I was not expecting you to go 0 to 100 so quick, but I should have expected it by the 100 on your shirt. So
100%,
let's go.
man.
Yeah, I'm ready.
100 millionaires. That is the goal.
Go.
That's what we're looking to build. I talk about high intensity when I do my trainings. It's always the person with the highest level of energy. So even when you can't see it, my energy is always just boiling at the surface, even if I'm playing cool. So it's, and you got the same thing, Emanuele. You're a high energy, intense person. We were just talking a little bit before this. How did you, actually, I don't want to say, how do we get into this first? You're the king of short-term rentals, right? Like you basically run short-term rentals in South Florida, from what Mitch Jorsky has told me. So how did you get started into it, and why short-term rentals? Why South Florida?
Yeah, so I would love to make myself sound very smart and know you that I knew how big this industry was going to be at the beginning. So I graduated college in 2010 with a degree in accounting and finance. At that time, Wall Street was closed due to what they did last time. So I kind of came back to South Florida. I lived in Geneva, Switzerland. That's where I went to university. And my mom and sister, my little sister, used to play tennis at a tennis academy down here in South Florida. So I came back with kind of my tail between my legs, going back to living with mom. And at that time, the only job I could find was that of a maintenance guy at an apartment complex. That apartment complex where my mom and sister were living, and was a fully furnished apartment complex that had 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedrooms. And I randomly just walked into the office asking the guy that owned it, hey, we need something for the apartment. And he's like, hey, you're Ana Maria's son, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, I just graduated school. I can't find a job, so I'm here for a little while. And it's like, well, this is our busy winter season, was December 18, 2010. This is our busy winter season. I need help in the office. I'm Jewish, so I don't work on Saturdays. So I need somebody to pick up the phone on Saturdays. Would you be open to it? I couldn't find a job, right? So I was like, sure.
Yeah.
And that was my beginning. So my beginning in real estate was very humble. I was a maintenance guy. So I did everything from painting to do units turnovers to having to go vacuum like 1.5 inches of shit one time because that toilet was overflowing, right? So I've done all of it. And then very serendipitous, in 2012, the gentleman that I used to work for, which I call one of my original real estate mentors, got a divorce, wanted to move back to Israel. And he's like, hey, do you want to buy the business? And so I was 22 at the time. And when you're 22, you have no idea what you don't know, right? And you're like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've seen you do it.
Sign me up.
Do it, right? So I go from being the maintenance guy to owning, he had sold me 16 apartments, to owning 16 apartments, but also the management of a 40-unit apartment complex. And that was my beginning. So it just kind of happened by chance. But then as life goes on, you realize that nothing happens by chance, right? So it's just kind of, that's how it happened. And there was, man, I'm not going to lie, there was a lot of ego at the beginning because I wanted to work, like, I wanted to be the Wolf of Wall Street, right? So I'm imagining myself with the suits and the stuff. And instead I was driving an old beat up golf cart. I had paint stains everywhere. And there was kind of that thing in the back of my head going like, what am I doing? Like, what? Like, this is not how my story was supposed to go. Fast forward 10 years later, because this year I celebrated 10 years of being in this business. I now own 39 apartments down here in the South Florida market. We have a real estate team, we have a property management business, and then I am partner with a good friend of mine, Jon Huber, and we own Domu Investments, which is an investment company that buys large to medium-sized apartment complexes in the Midwest as well. So it's been interesting, man. It's been definitely an interesting journey. but I can't, in all honesty, tell you I knew what was going to happen or that was my plan. It just kind of worked out.
It's pretty crazy because you could say you got lucky, but really you didn't. You showed up, you worked in the right industry, and you weren't just a forgettable maintenance person. You were somebody who the person who owned the building said, "Man, I trust this person.
Mm,
They're clearly hustling. They're clearly working hard. They clearly want to own this, and they found a buyer in you." Most maintenance people who are working in buildings are not saying, "Hey, I want to own this one day." Most maintenance people in buildings are not saying with their energy, with their work ethic, that I could handle this, right?
mm,
Most people are just trying to get by, punch a clock. You showed up differently. It's not about how things come to you. It's about how you show up to them that decides what's going to happen. And so you didn't get lucky. You just were somebody who was looking to grow. You were somebody who was looking, like everything that you have right now. When I do some coaching, right? And Manuel, you're that perfect example of, I know exactly what you want in life because it's what you have, right?
mm.
You're showing what you have by having it. That's who you are. So Manuel, you're somebody who's built a lot of wealth for yourself. You've built a lot of businesses, a lot of jobs for other people. What do you think? What do you think drives you?
Ooh. Um, this is funny, right? Because this is it's a always evolving kind of answer, right? And I think there's always the money element of it. And I think that's an underlying thing of all entrepreneurs. Like we all want to live a successful life and we all want to make money.
Yes.
Um, but I also know that I can honestly answer the question that if I won the lotto tomorrow, would I be doing what I do now? And the answer is yes,
Yeah.
right? Because I love, to me, real estate, it's a business about people. And I love taking care of people. And I take great pride in taking care of people, regardless if they're long-term tenants, short-term tenants, my real estate clients, buying, selling, investing, right? Like I love real estate also because it tends to be, if you do it right, it tends to be a happy business,
Yeah.
right? Because as people are taken care of, they're comfortable in their houses, they're comfortable in their homes, they come on vacation. Like I have families that have been coming to vacation in South Florida, except this year because of COVID. But I've had clients that I've kept from the original guy that I bought the apartment from, right? So like I have clients that have been coming down to stay with us for like 8, 9, 10 years. And I got to see their whole families grow, right? So their kids getting married or like their kids having kids, right? And I teach this to my team all the time is we are hospitality people first and real estate people second when it comes to vacation rentals.
Yeah.
And we have a huge responsibility to take care of people that have chosen to give us their hard-earned money for an experience. And the way that we cater an experience is by really caring about people. So long story short, what drives me now is just creating and providing great value and great service through taking care of people through real estate. May that be long-term rentals, may that be the apartments that we own, may that be our real estate team or our vacation rentals.
I like that, Manuel. I've found the same thing. I'm driven for a very similar reason. It's not the real estate I love; it's my investors that I love. I love playing the game. I'm an investor, right? So I try to stay away from my client, the end user of our product. Although I love walking my buildings, I love my property manager, I love my tenants, and I love seeing like you said, it's a very happy business. All my tenants are very happy when they see me. Whenever they have a conversation, they feel like they've won something. They feel like they've gained. But it's really my investors that I work for. I love being able to get a great return. I love beating the system. I love beating the game. I love improving, raising rents. So, I mean, it's you got to love serving somebody. And, for you, you found the end user's experience is what it all matters. It all comes down to. And for me,
Mhm.
my end user is my investor. So I think the way you've built your company is fun. It's fun to work at. It's fun to be there. It's fun to live in those buildings. And you're getting a good quality experience when they're renting from you. And I think that makes your team have a lot of fun doing it and makes them see the purpose and the vision and why they continue to push forward and why expansion is the only thing that makes sense, right? Because
Mhm.
the whole world should be able to experience life like this, vacationing the way they do, or in the Midwest, living the way they do. You've got a lot of great mentality going forward. So Emmanuel, what do you see in the future? I love, I know real estate is kind of second to customer service, and I love that about you. But you got to be looking at real estate, and you got to be
Yeah.
looking at your customers and where they're going in the future. What do you see?
Yeah, so I mean, real estate is definitely in an interesting spot right now. We can talk about all of it, right? We can talk about the local South Florida market, how that's going. Crazy amounts of demand, not a lot of inventory. But we're really pushing heavily on a couple of things. So number one, on our Domu investment side of things, we're really looking to scale that business. We have a little over 100 doors now. We're pushing heavy into 2021. Our goal there is to get to 1,000 doors by the end of the year. And then locally for the South Florida market and the vacation rental space, there is a huge opportunity now coming up with those small hotel, motel, boutique properties that were run by mom and pop operators that were not, unfortunately, they were not ready for what happened, right? And they weren't ready to pivot, and they weren't online, and they don't know how to play this game the way that we do, right?
Yep.
So that's what we're really looking forward to, is really finding in the hospitality sector those small, I'm talking about like 10 to 20, 30 unit hotel, motel, boutique properties that we
Yep.
can convert into and then push through all the platforms like Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, and so on and so forth, and really optimize that asset class.
I like that, Emmanuel. That's been one of the pieces I've been looking at myself. Micro rentals, right? So we look at
Yeah.
the hotels and motels and saying, okay, like for us, we'd probably convert that over to a longer term monthly rental.
Yeah.
But you're right. Your model will make more money. Switching over to a high tech online Airbnb, giving it a really unique kind of feel to the building, not just giving a standard motel, but getting a very good feeling when you go to this particular motel. Like I know you do some really unique stuff with your Airbnbs to make it a fun experience. And
Yep.
so your strategy will actually really improve the South Florida market. So people will have more reasons to come visit. People may start visiting just for your Airbnbs. They may come down
Yeah,
just for your
I mean,
hotels.
hey, we're ready for it. And I think the other thing that is huge is just like leveraging technology, right? What I've realized is in the last 10 years since I've been in the vacation rental business, you can really see the money has come into the industry just by the sheer number of softwares and apps and just innovation that has been continuously happening. And there is so many people that are now looking at the vacation rental space, because let's face it, right? Vacation rentals is not new. Like, we have been doing vacation rentals since the beginning of time. I know when I grew up, we used to go to England from Italy to like rent a house, right? It just wasn't called Airbnb. And it's the same way that, like, you know what I mean? So Airbnb has the name recognition, but this is not a new business, right? And I think with COVID especially, what's going to change massively is in the psychology of people, in how they travel. And I know for me and my family, I don't want to stay in a hotel. I'd rather have a one bedroom apartment that has a kitchen. I have my own entrance. I have my own AC unit. There is no shared vents. I don't have to get in an elevator, go to a lobby. I don't have to talk to anybody, right? So I think that is a huge opportunity, and the technology is amazing. So you can literally, all of our property, you don't have to see anybody. You go directly
Like,
to your door, you check in, you do your stuff, you have your Wi-Fi password. You need us, we're there. But you don't need us, you're not seeing a single soul. Everything is clean, everything is sanitized, everything is perfect.
yeah, I agree with you, Emmanuel. Honestly, my biggest problem with hotels is I hate talking to the customer service person at the front. I hate all the questions. I would have filled out a form and handled it already if they had that option. I thought by filling out the form online that meant I didn't have to talk to you. It's kind of my it's kind of my point. Like, just
Yeah.
give me the code, I'll
No.
go to my
Yeah.
room.
Yeah. And it's also our generation. So like that 25 to 35, 40 traveler, which is us, right?
Yep.
We don't care about the Ritz experience as much anymore. Like, there are some of us that are still very much about that, but I don't want to have to make small talk and then drink the fucking champagne that you're gonna give me. I don't know if I could curse in here.
I
But
mean, leave the
it kind of
champagne in
fell
the
out.
room. Like, I'll use it.
Yeah,
but-
that's what I mean. Leave me alone. Like, I don't want to see me how fast I drink my glass of champagne, right? Like, I don't, just leave it in the room. Leave me alone. I'll go and check in myself. We
Yeah.
don't have to talk about anything. And if I need you, I'll find you.
Yeah,
Right?
I feel the same way, Emanuele. I'm the king of Airbnb, and when I travel, I Airbnb. When I travel, I Uber. Like, I don't want to talk to the Uber driver either. Like, I'm in the back. Like, I'm just like, yo, I'm back here for a reason. I didn't sit up front because I didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
Like, unless I'm
Yeah.
in a new market and I want to learn about the market. But like,
Yeah.
there's nobody
That's a
better
great
than
way
the
to
Uber
do it.
driver to learn about the market, right?
100%. Uber driver
So-
and waitresses. That's one of our main sources of information in a new market. We go to the
Yes.
waitresses too and be like, why do people live here? Right? And you'll be
Yes.
surprised. The waitress is going to be a great source of information for you.
And then the bartender at cigar shops will tell you where all the investors are at. They know everybody.
Mhm.
So I gotta ask a big favor for everybody who's listening right now. Go on to iTunes. This is important, and register and review this podcast, the Alchemist Station podcast. It only has 12 reviews right now, and I know that there's hundreds of you listening. But most importantly, you're the person whose review we need right now. You are the most important review. So please go to iTunes, type in Alchemist Station podcast, write a review. It helps us get more guests on the podcast, and it helps us get some really great people into the arena. So if you have gained some value from the conversation today with Emanuele, please show us by writing a great review. Back to the show. Emanuele, if somebody wanted to learn more about either renting from you or working for you or partnering with you or getting involved in some of your deals, I know you have a brokerage, you have a property management company. What is the easiest way to get in touch with you? What's your best contact information?
Yeah, I mean, Instagram is super easy. I check that often. It's Pani. That's PANI .real estate. But you can also find me on my email, which is Emanuele, which is my first name, at Domu Properties. That's DOMU Properties.com. And I'm also the co-host of SDR Secret Podcast. So if you're interested in short-term rentals, we have a podcast where we bring common folks that have 1 or 2 units, but also guys that have had 2, 3, 4,000 units on the show. And we really walk you through, hey, how did you go from a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment in Canada to now running 2, 3, 4,000 units?
Exactly.
To really help you maximize and hopefully help people create that wealth and get a couple more of those 100 millionaires that you're looking for.
Stack them up, man. Emanuele,
You know?
let's go.
So that's really our goal, man. Like this short-term rental business for both me and my buddy Mike that does the podcast with me has been such a huge source of freedom. That's the main driver behind the podcast. Is not so much the podcast itself, is really sharing the information and letting people know how accessible financial freedom is now. And is what you were saying earlier as well, right? It's like the system is hackable.
Yes.
If you just ask the right question and execute, the system is hackable.
I love that. You, Emanuele, have figured out the hack. You figured out the keys to the kingdom, and the fact that you're out here with us sharing it, I appreciate you so much. Now, I've got to ask for a little bit more because we're real estate investors. We're always looking for that little extra deal.
Yeah.
What are the 3 pieces of advice you'd give to somebody who's just starting out? 20 years old. If you go back to your 20-year-old self, give yourself some advice to maybe speed things up or save you some trouble to get here faster. What 3 pieces would you give to somebody?
I think number 1 is education, but you got to implement. Because I hear people all the time, I read 50 books, I read 60 books. That is amazing. How much of those books did you implement, right? And one of my mentor, Rock Thomas, always tells me is like, it doesn't matter how much you know. What do you do with what you know, right? And it's really getting into the habit of like, you read a book, you implement. And I'm not saying implement every strategy from every book, but the 1% of the strategy from the one book, implement that, move on to the next book. Because if not, you'll start kind of keep reading, but you're not making any difference, and then you forget things, right? A great book that I recommended to one of my coaching clients lately was How to Win Friends and Influence People, right?
Dale Carnegie.
It's a
Yes.
golden book. And that book is perfect because along the way, it gives you little cues, smile to people,
Yeah.
say people's names,
Action steps.
right? And then my
Yeah.
wife read the book recently too, and she's like, now I get why you always know everybody's names, right? Because we go to the same restaurants. I know the front lady, I know the waitress, if there's the same people, and you recognize them by name, but it's life changing, right? People like smile. We always get a little bit more bread than every other table around us, right? Because you know, it's a
That's
real
right.
thing. It's a real thing. People just want to feel seen,
Yep.
right? Number two, I would say realize that people want to feel seen, see them, but also remember that like people are people. So don't take shit personally, especially if you're getting used to coming into sales and depends on how you grew up. Sales can be very difficult. And sales, if you take it personally, that it's a rejection of you as a person, you're gonna have a very, very hard time. Right. So it's really growing that skin of like understanding, hey, a rejection, whatever you want to be, a wholesaler, short-term rentals, you want to do short-term rental arbitrage, and you just gotta be talking and talking to people. Really understand you gotta grow that skin.
Yep.
Number three is number three is, you know what, man? I say at the end of the day, you gotta upgrade your operating system because you can keep reading the books, but if you don't upgrade your identity of who you are as a person and what you think your ceiling is, you
Yeah.
you can't go anywhere, right? So like really understanding like, hey, upgrade your identity, and that unfortunately sometimes is gonna come through upgrading your friend group. No listening to mama, no listening to papa, because they don't mean badly. They're just giving you what their software is,
Yeah.
and you can listen to them and then just know that like I'm doing things differently. I'm becoming a different kind of person. And sometimes that takes a little while, but you got to upgrade the software as you're putting new programs into who you are as a person. Because then you can install all the programs, but if the software is not there, you're not going to be able to run them.
Exactly. We have the hardware to be successful. It's just installing the software, and the CPU is working fine. Like this
Yeah.
brain can do whatever you want it to. This body can do whatever you want it to. It's just setting in the right way to interact with other human beings really is the secret. And setting a really good goal and then giving yourself the programs to run it. Emmanuel, phenomenal three pieces of advice. What a great interview. Mitch Jaworski never talked you up like this. He said, this is the guy, for Airbnb, short-term rentals. But I didn't expect to have, and he said you were pretty impressive. He was impressed with you.
Yeah. Thanks, man. He's pretty impressive as well.
But the mindset, that's I think what I gained the most from you in this last three pieces. Just took it to the next level. So super valuable. In fact, I will say that Wealth Principle 52, we do a Wealth Principle every Saturday and we provide a book to go through the week to talk about that Wealth Principle. Wealth Principle 52 is Sharpen the Saw. So it's my final Wealth Principle, and we're starting over again in a week. And it's go back through, review, and start over and review every single one of the wealth principles that you've found to be successful in your life, like smile and improve the smile. Just take it to the next level and, learn people's names, but maybe do it faster or say it with a more melodious tone so that they really feel that you're seeing them, right? And like you can take those wealth principles and throughout each year, you go back and you sharpen the saw. You go back and re-upgrade that software. Emanuele, absolutely valuable, my friend. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. You
My
are an
pleasure.
alchemist. You add value to other people's lives.
It's my pleasure. And anytime you need any support or if I can bring any value to you, your community, your students, I am always available. If any of them want to reach out to me personally, as I mentioned, Instagram is probably the easiest, epani.realestate. And really, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, right? As Yoda says, do or do not, there is no try. And that's really like what it is, right? Is a matter of this is your year, guys. This is your moment, guys and girls. And like this is the time. And it's not a matter of I'm gonna try to do yes, I'm gonna try to do this, I'm gonna try to be successful. You gotta just take out the try and just be successful. Do what you want to do. And 90% of the time you already know everything you need to know, and you're already blessed and you're already given and you already have all the opportunities in front of you. So it's really a matter of like just do it.
Cheers, brother. Thank you so much, Manuel.
Yeah, my pleasure.
When you have a choice, always work with the best.